Undercover single dad found a pregnant girl crying at gas station. Unaware she was a CEO millionaire, the night air carried the faint chill of autumn, the kind that wrapped itself around tired bones after a long day of work. The gas station sat on the edge of the quiet highway, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat in the darkness. Jack pulled his old pickup truck into the station, the rumble of the engine fading as he turned the key. He rubbed his forehead, trying to shake away the exhaustion that clung to him. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was curled up in the passenger seat, fast asleep, her small face pressed against the window. Her arms were wrapped tightly around a stuffed bear, its fur worn down from years of being loved. Jack stepped out of the truck, stretching his stiff shoulders as he began to fill the tank. His eyes wandered, scanning the empty lot, when he noticed someone sitting by the curb near the ice machine. At first he thought it was just a traveler resting, but as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw a young woman. She sat hunched forward, her arms wrapped around her stomach, her long hair falling like a curtain to hide her face. Her shoulders trembled. She was crying. Jack's first instinct was to look away. Life had already given him enough burdens, he wasn't in the habit of adding more. But something about her broke through his defenses. Maybe it was the way she held her stomach protectively. Maybe it was the quiet sobs that echoed too close to the sound of his own memories. Those nights when he cried alone after his wife had left, leaving him to raise Lily without so much as a goodbye. He capped the gas pump, and after a moment of hesitation, walked toward her. His boots scraped against the pavement, announcing his approach. She flinched and quickly tried to wipe her face, as if pretending she wasn't crying would erase the truth of her pain. "Are you okay, ma'am?" Jack asked softly, crouching down to her level. His voice carried no judgment, only concern. The girl shook her head, her lips trembling. I don't know what to do anymore." Her voice cracked, thin and fragile, like it had been held together for too long and was finally breaking apart. Up close, Jack noticed she couldn't have been more than her mid-20s. Her clothes looked neat but travel-worn, like she hadn't planned on being here, wherever here was. And then he saw the way her hands cradled her stomach. Pregnant. The realization hit him like a weight. Didn't press her for details. He knew what it was like to have strangers ask questions you weren't ready to answer. Instead, he shrugged off his worn jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. She blinked up at him, startled, as though she wasn't used to kindness. "It's cold out here," he said, his tone calm and steady. "You shouldn't be sitting like this." The girl sniffled, clutching the jacket tighter. "Why are you helping me?" Jack paused, thinking. He could have said a dozen things, but only the truth came out. "Because I know what it feels like to be sitting alone and wishing someone would care." For a moment she stared at him, eyes glistening in the fluorescent glow. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. People usually avoided her, passed by without seeing her, or judged her for her situation. But this man wasn't asking where she came from or why she was here. He was simply offering her warmth. Jack gestured toward the small convenience store behind them. "Look, I don't have much, but let me buy you a hot meal. Something simple. At least for tonight, you don't have to sit out here crying on the curb." The girl hesitated. Trust didn't come easy. Not anymore. But the sincerity in his eyes and the quiet honesty in his voice made her nod. Slowly, almost reluctantly, she allowed him to help her up. As they walked toward the store, Jack glanced back at his truck. Through the window, Lily had woken, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She pressed her tiny palm against the glass, watching curiously as her father guided the stranger inside. Jack gave his daughter a reassuring nod before turning back to the young woman. Inside the store, the warm smell of fried food and coffee filled the air. Jack ordered a simple meal, scrambled eggs and toast from the small diner counter. When the plate was set before her, the girl stared at it as though it were a feast. She picked up the fork with shaky hands, whispering a quiet thank you that almost got lost in the hum of refrigerators. Jack didn't push her to talk. He sat across from her in silence, sipping a coffee, watching her slowly eat as though she hadn't had a proper meal in days. Every now and then she looked up at him, her eyes softening, as though she couldn't quite believe a stranger would sit with her without expecting anything in return. That night, in the corner booth of a gas station diner, something unspoken passed between them, a fragile thread of trust, of safety, of two broken souls recognizing each other in the quiet. Jack drove them home that night, with the steady rhythm of the tires against the road filling the silence between them. The girl, she had introduced herself simply as Emily, sat quietly in the back seat, her hands resting on her rounded stomach. Every now and then she glanced at Lily in the front seat, who had drifted back to sleep, her head leaning against her father's shoulder. There was something peaceful about the child's face, untouched by the world's cruelty, and Emily felt her throat tight. She couldn't remember the last time she had seen innocence so unguarded. The truck rattled down the narrow lane that led to Jack's home. It wasn't much, a single-story house, with peeling paint and a yard that had more weeds than grass. But the moment Jack opened the door, it felt warm. The scent of lavender soap lingered faintly, and a pair of children's drawings were taped to the fridge. It was a place built, not on wealth, but on love, and Emily felt it the moment she stepped inside. Jack carried Lily in, setting her gently on the couch before covering her with a blanket. Then he turned to Emily, his voice carrying the same quiet steadiness as before. "It isn't fancy, but you're welcome here tonight. I'll put together something to eat." Emily opened her mouth to refuse, her pride tugging at her, but the rumble in her stomach betrayed her. She hadn't eaten a real meal in days. Instead of arguing, she nodded. She sat at the small wooden table, running her fingers over the worn grooves in the surface. They spoke of years of use, of breakfasts hurried before school and dinners where laughter filled the room. In the kitchen, Jack moved with the ease of someone used to making do with little. He cracked eggs into a pan, the sizzle filling the silence, and popped bread into a toaster. He glanced over his shoulder at Emily, who sat with her eyes lowered, as if afraid to take up space. When he placed the plate in front of her, just scrambled eggs and toast, she stared at it as though it were something far greater. Her eyes welled up, and she quickly blinked the tears away. "You didn't have to," she whispered. Jack sat down across from her, sipping from a chipped mug of coffee. "Everyone deserves a warm meal," he replied simply. Emily ate slowly, almost reverently, while Jack remained quiet. He didn't ask about her past, didn't demand explanations. He simply let her. That silence was more comforting than any words. A soft sound broke the moment. Lily stirred, sitting up on the couch with her teddy bear still in her arms. Her hair stuck out in every direction, and her eyes were heavy with sleep. But when she spotted Emily, she smiled. Children had a way of seeing without judgment, and Lily, in her innocence, only saw a lonely soul who needed a friend. "Hi," Lily said, patting over in her pajamas. She climbed into the chair beside Emily, her small hand reaching out to touch the woman's arm. "You can sit with me. Do you want my teddy? He makes me feel better when I'm sad." Emily froze, her fork halfway to her lips. The kindness of the child, so pure, so freely given, undid her in a way nothing else could have. She placed the fork down and covered her face with her hands, tears spilling out before she could stop them. Jack moved to speak, but Lily beat him to it. She leaned closer, her little voice filled with sincerity. "Don't cry, you're safe here." Emily lowered her hands slowly, her eyes red but shining. She turned to Jack, her voice breaking. "You're a good father, she's kind because of you." Jack shifted uncomfortably, scratching the back of his neck. Compliments were not something he knew how to take. Some days are harder than others." For the first time, Emily smiled. It was small, fragile, but it lit up her face in a way Jack hadn't seen before. For a fleeting moment, the heaviness in her seemed light. Later, when Jack tucked Lily into her bed, Emily lingered in the doorway, watching father and daughter whisper their good nights. The sight stirred something deep inside her, a longing for the kind of simple, honest love she had never known in her own world. When Lily finally drifted back to sleep, Emily met Jack's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. You didn't even know me, and yet you opened your home." Jack shrugged, but there was weight behind his words when he answered. "Sometimes, strangers need a place to belong, even if it's just for a night." Emily nodded, her heart quietly shifting, as if for the first time she was beginning to believe that maybe she didn't have to face her future alone. The days that followed turned into weeks, and what had begun as a single act of kindness slowly wove itself into a rhythm of unexpected companionship. Emily stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because Jack never made her feel like a burden. In his home she found something she hadn't known she was missing, a sense of belonging. She helped where she could, folding Lily's laundry, tidying the kitchen, even planting flowers in the small patch of dirt by the porch. Jack never asked her to, but she wanted to give back to the home that had opened its arms to her. Lily adored her. The little girl followed Emily everywhere, holding her hand, showing her drawings, even talking to her unborn baby as if she were already its best friend. At night, when the house was quiet, Emily sometimes sat by the window, watching the stars. Jack would join her, 2 mugs of tea in hand, and they would sit in silence. Neither needed to fill the air with work. It was enough to just be there, 2 people carrying heavy pasts, finding unexpected comfort in each other's company. But peace has a way of being fragile. One afternoon, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway shattered. Not just any car, a sleek black sedan, polished until it gleamed, too out of place in front of Jack's weathered home. Jack looked up from repairing a broken chair on the porch, frowning. He hadn't seen a vehicle like that in his part of town in years. 2 men in dark suits stepped out. Their posture, their manner, it was clear they didn't belong here. One of them spoke sharply the moment he saw Emily, who had frozen in the doorway. "Miss Carter, finally we've found you. The board has been in chaos without you. You can't just disappear like this." Jack blinked, confusion knitting his brow. "Bored? What are you talking about?" The men exchanged looks before one of them added, "Your company needs you, Emily. You've been gone too long." Emily's chest tightened. She felt Jack's eyes on her, searching for answers. There was no escaping it now. Her secret, the truth she had kept buried, was standing on his porch, demanding to be revealed. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Jack, I haven't been honest with you." He waited, his jaw set, his expression unreadable. "My full name is Emily Carter. I run a corporation, a very large one. I've spent years building it, being the face of it. People call me successful, some even call me a millionaire. But when I found out I was pregnant, everything collapsed inside me. To them, I wasn't a person anymore. Just a CEO with a scandal. They looked at me as though I'd failed them. Not as a woman, not as a human being, just as a leader who broke their image of perfection. I couldn't breathe under that weight, so I ran." Silence stretched between them. Jack's calloused hands tightened around the back of the chair he'd been fixing, the wood creaking under the pressure. He had invited her into his home, trusted her, and she had hidden. From the corner of his eye, he saw Lily clutching her teddy, her wide, innocent gaze bouncing between the 2 adults. Her small voice broke the tension. "Daddy, does this mean she won't stay with us anymore?" Emily's heart cracked at the word. She sank to her knees, in front of the little girl, tears slipping down her face. "Sweetheart, if your daddy lets me, I'd like to stay, not because I need a roof, or because I'm hiding, but because with you, I found something I never had before. A family." Her words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Jack swallowed hard. He had every reason to push her away. She belonged to a world he couldn't even imagine. A world of money and power, while he was just a tired man trying to make ends meet and raise his daughter. But when he looked at Emily, he didn't see a millionaire. He saw the same girl he had found crying at a gas station, lost and scared. He saw the way she looked at Lily, with tenderness and care, and he saw hope flickering in her eyes, the same hope he had been afraid to let himself feel for years. Jack's voice was low, rough with emotion. "I don't care about your money, Emily. I don't care about your title. What I care about is the way you've been here, for me, for Lily. That's what matters." Emily's breath hitched as relief washed over her. She had carried so many fears, so many walls, but in that moment, they crumbled. Lily rushed forward, wrapping her tiny arms around both of them. Her teddy squished between their chests. "Then you're part of our family now," she said with a certainty only children could have. Jack met Emily's eyes over Lily's head, and for the first time in years, his guarded heart dared to believe. Not in fairy tales, not in perfection, but in second chances, the kind that come quietly, when you least expect them. And in that small, with the sound of the wind rustling through the trees and the laughter of a child filling the air, they all understood. Sometimes family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you stumble upon when a stranger offers you a jacket at a gas station and changes your life forever. In the end, what began as a chance encounter at a lonely gas station became the beginning of a new family. Jack, the single father who thought his life was destined for quiet struggle, and Emily, the runaway CEO, who had everything yet felt utterly alone, found in each other what they had been missing all along: acceptance, kindness, and love without condition. It wasn't wealth or titles that built their bond, But the small acts of care that proved sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places.